Good day, poker peeps. This is Sky with Smart Poker Study. One of the things I love about online poker is I get to use my Smart HUD 4 Poker Tracker 4 for maximum exploits against my opponents. The HUD gives me numerical representations for my opponent's tendencies. And a great way to use the HUD is by game planning those exploits. Game planning is analyzing each player's tendencies to create a plan of attack to maximize exploits and, of course, profits. So we're going to game plan this table with these 5 opponents, and we'll also utilize my own HUD stats to see where I am exploitable. And we're going to answer some key questions to help us exploit these opponents, both pre-flop and post-flop. Now the first question to answer, who folds to steals? Let's take a look at the Smart HUD over here. Up in the top right, these are the folding to steal statistics, fold to steal, and big blind fold versus small blind open. So take a look around the table real quick and answer the question for yourself, who folds to steals? Now my answer is Hero, Villain 1, and Villain 5. You can see Hero folds 81%, folds 100%, 3 out of 3 in the big blind versus a small blind steal. Also Villain 1 down here, it's a small history, but one of the key things about player tendencies is that past tendencies indicate future actions. He's folded 1 out of 1 right here, but let's try to steal against him at some point. Let's see if we can make it 2 out of 2, 3 out of 3, 4 out of 4. This player as well folds 71%. But up here, doesn't fold 40, I shouldn't say doesn't fold, but folds rarely 47%, 52%, and then just 60% over here. Now, who should I isolate? Look around the table, VPIP and PFR are these 2 statistics here. For me, the easiest target at this table is player 3. The 44/8, huge gap in between these two. We can also see that he raises first in, only 14%, 10 out of 70, and he calls though, 51%, 37 out of 72. He has 3-bet only 1 out of 72 times. This is a fish right here. As soon as I spot a player like this on the table, I'm going to color code him green. And then he is obviously one that I should isolate as often as possible. And you can see I use green for fish. We'll tag these other players as we go around the table, but tag is yellow, lag, loose aggressive orange, nits are red, so super tight players, and those gamblers, they're purple. The next question, who to make extremely big value 3-bets against? So we're basically looking for players who do not fold to 3-bets. This is the fold to 3-bet after raising statistic. You could see Hero folds 100%, 2 out of 2. Oh, but our fishy villain, 0 out of 1. Small sample, but he doesn't like to fold. So who should we make extremely big value 3-bets against? Yeah, my answer here, I'm thinking villains 3, 4, and 5. Villain 3 doesn't like to fold. Villain 4 over here, he's only folded 33%, 3 out of 9 times. When we got aces and kings, we want to go a little bit bigger. Let's go 10, 11 big blinds against this player. And then down here, it's only 50% folding 11 out of 22. We can expect him to continue quite often. Now, who should we bluff 3-bet against? That same statistic can be useful. This player, this hero guy, folds 100%, but this fish over here folds 0%. So who should we bluff 3-bet more often against? Yeah, looking around the table right there, I'm thinking Hero, Villain 1, and Villain 2. Folding 100%, folding 100%. We have not seen him fold yet, but he's been folding the steals. He's only a 20/10 over 10 hands, but you got to work with what you know. I'm thinking this is a tight aggressive player, and tight aggressive players in general, especially when they open raise out of the cutoff and the button, they fold quite often versus 3-bet. So I'm going to attempt some 3-bet bluffs versus him. Now, who should we 3-bet resteal? A 3-bet resteal is versus somebody else's steal. So they open raise from the cutoff, the button, or the small blind. So we're looking for a high raise first in, and then a high fold to 3-bet. My answer here is I would target Hero, Seat 1 and Seat 2, or Villain 1 and Villain 2, with my 3-bet resteals when I'm in the small blind or the big blind. Raising first in 29%, folding a ton. Raising 31% first in, folding a ton. Raising 100%. It is only 1 out of 1, but I would try at least once 3-bet restealing against him. Now let's think about post-flop. Who to bluff on the flop? Now, the statistics that really help are the fold to c-bet stats. So if we look down here, this player folds on the flop versus c-bets 57%, 0% on turns, and on the river he folds versus a bet 57%. So utilizing this bottom row, and maybe the one above it, c-bet flop, c-bet turn, bet river, who to bluff on the flop. I would absolutely bluff villains 2, 5, and villain 4. Villain 2 right here, he's folded 100%. It is only 1 out of 1. Well, let's try to make it 2 out of 2, and then 3 out of 3. Villain 5, he folds 57%. It's really not that high, but he doesn't appear to like folding on the turn, right? If we're going to bluff him, we've got to do it on the flop. Don't check and then delayed c-bet. And then villain 4, same kind of thing, folds on flops, but not yet on the turn. Even though it's a small sample, we've got to bluff the flop. Now, who to bluff on the turn? My answer here is to bluff hero, villain 3, and villain 1. Now, in general, tight aggressive players, they are fine folding on turns if they don't have anything good. They'll stick around on the flop and then fold on the turn. So hero, even though we haven't seen him face any c-bets yet at all, just in general, because he is a tight aggressive player, and I would consider this tight aggressive, borderline loose aggressive, but he's getting there. Now villain 3, just because his fold to c-bet on the flop goes from 40% to 50%, before I c-bet the flop, I'm going to plan to barrel against villain as a bluff right here. And then, like I said before, against tight aggressive players, you got to double barrel them most of the time. I would do that against this guy right here. Now, who to bluff on the river? My answer for this one, I'm looking at hero, villain 4, 5, 1, and 2. Now, hero and villain 1, just because they're tight aggressive players like I talked about. Villain 4 over here, oh, he bets the river 10%, 1 out of 10, but he folds 3 out of 4? Totally river honest player. And in general, 29-21, raising first in more than double what he calls, and he has 3-bet plenty of times in the past. I'm going to give this player the orange lag tag. Villain 5 as well. He's more honest when facing bets, folding 57% versus betting at 35%. I'm going to bluff the river on this player. And 26-19, very similar to this player right here. He is calling quite frequently, but let's go ahead and give him the orange lag tag as well. And then this player, because he's a loose aggressive, I would plan on triple barreling before I even c-bet the flop. And definitely, if I'm going to c-bet bluff on the turn, I'm going to have to plan for a triple barrel versus another loose aggressive player like this. Even though we don't know anything just yet, that's why he's at the end of the list. I'm not 100% sure that he is honest on rivers, but if I get to the river and have a bluffing hand and I really think that he didn't hit anything, maybe the river was a blank, it probably didn't help his range, I would triple barrel him. Now, besides looking at the table as a whole and answering these questions, I also like to target one player at a time. So if we look at just villain 5, this loose aggressive player, for example, here are some ways that we can exploit him specifically. The first, he doesn't like to fold versus 3 bets, it looks like, right, at only 50%. But here's the thing, you open up the Smart HUD pop-up right here, raise, and then fold to 3-bet in position, 78%. Out of position, 31%. So yes, he does fold when he is in position, so we definitely want to resteal 3-bet bluff versus him. The next exploit specifically against this player, we need to believe his small blind 3-bets, and we should 4-bet with pocket kings or bigger. Basically, he is 3-bet honest in the small blind. Let's take a look. 5% looks like generally 3-bet honest player, but if we look at the 3-bet pop-up, 3-bet total in the small blind is only 2%, 1 out of 53. So he does not use the small blind as a re-stealing spot. Some other players, like villain 4, boom! 14%, 3 out of 22? Yes, he likes to 3-bet re-steal from the small blind. He doesn't right here. So we should be pretty quick to fold if he 3-bets us out of the small blind. The next exploit, before calling a flop c-bet versus villain 5, expect a double barrel. He goes from 59 to 82. So a key aspect of this, don't call on the flop if you're just going to fold on the turn versus most turn cards. Look ahead to the future. What cards are good or bad for me? Are there more bad cards for me than good? Am I just calling now that pot's going to be bigger? He's going to make a 3/4 pot bet on the turn and I'm going to have to fold? If that's the case, just get out now. And also, if he barrels the turn on a blank, bluff raise him. He has been c-betting, barreling 82% of the time, 9 out of 11. He understands that most players do not continue beyond the turn because they're just turn honest in general. So I bet you he is bluffing a ton. Call him on the flop with a plan on a turn blank, bluff raising him. Let's give that a shot. Let's exploit his turn barreling tendency. And lastly here, don't believe his triple barrels when you're in position, but he is honest out of position. So let's take a look at this right here. In the pop-up, in position, he goes from 59 to 75, 100% on the river, 2 out of 2. But when he's c-betting out of position, 58, 100 on the turn, 3 out of 3. Oh, but then on the river, just 1 out of 3. Out of position, c-bet, river, honesty. In position, not honest. We can probably bluff catch him when he triple barrels in position. And when he does not bet the river out of position, let's stab to steal it on the river. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. Now it's time for you to take action. The next table that you play, take a look around the table, write these questions down on a piece of paper, answer them for yourself for every player that you're up against. Once you figure out who to bluff 3-bet, who to bluff turns on, get into that spot and exploit them with the play. Alrighty, thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you like the video, subscribe for more, leave a comment down below with your favorite way to use your HUD, and I'll see you in the next video.